जय हिंद दोस्तों, फिर से आपका स्वागत है हमारे इस विजन IAS PD 365 सीरीज़ में, जिसमें लोग पॉलिटी कर रहे हैं और यह कंटिन्यू वीडियो लेक्चर रहेगा। और हम लोगों ने पहले ही बहुत सारे वीडियो लेक्चर अपलोड किए हुए हैं इसका विजन IAS PD 365 पॉलिटी का। तो आप लोग अगर पहले के नहीं देखें तो लिंक मैं डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में डाल दूँगा, आप लोग जाइए उसे चेक कीजिए। और इसी के साथ साथ हम लोग वाजीराम एंड रवि के भी करंट अफेयर को कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं। तो अगर आप लोगों ने उसे नहीं देखा तो उसे भी ज़रूर देखिए। और मैं ये एश्योर कर सकता हूँ आप लोगों को कि आपको UPSC से रिलेटेड यहाँ पे इतने सारे फैक्ट मिलेंगे, इतने सारे करंट अफेयर मिलेंगे कि आपको और कहीं जाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। बस हमारे साथ बने रहिए और आपको हर वो चीज़ मिलेगा जो UPSC से रिलेटेड आपके लिए ज़रूरी होगा एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से। तो बस हमारे साथ जुड़े रहिए। और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें। कमेंट बॉक्स में ज़रूर बताएंगे आपको हमारी यह पहल कैसी लग रही है और आप इससे कितने लाभान्वित हो रहे हैं। और इसे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार के UPSC प्रीलिम्स देने वाले हैं, उन तक इसे ज़रूर पहुँचाएँ ताकि वो भी इस वीडियो से लाभान्वित हो सके और अपने करंट अफेयर की तैयारी को और मजबूत कर सके। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं आज का हमारा टॉपिक है यहाँ से। आज यहाँ पे हम लोग पहुँच चुके थे, यहाँ शुरू होगा भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता। ये क्रिमिनल लॉ रिफॉर्म में के अंडर चल रहा था और यहाँ से आज हम शुरू करने वाले आज का अपना टॉपिक भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता 2023 शुरू करते हैं। इट रिप्लेसेस द क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर कोड 1973 CRPC which provided for the procedure for arrest, prosecution and bail under various act। बैकग्राउंड क्या था तो देख लेते हैं। CRPC was first enacted in 1861 under British rule and later substituted by fresh code successively enacted in 1872 and 1882. It has undergone several amendments, most importantly in 1898, 1923 and 1955. CRPC 1973. The Law Commission of India in its 41st report recommended a significant revision of the code which led to the creation of CRPC 1973 की प्रोविजन क्या है तो डिटेंशन ऑफ under trials, first time offender who have completed 1/3 of the maximum period of imprisonment shall be released on bond. If an accused has spent half of maximum period of imprisonment specified for an offence shall be released by the court on bail. This does not apply to offence punishable by death, life imprisonment and persons against whom proceedings are pending in more than one offence. मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन क्या है तो एनी पुलिस ऑफिसर कैन रिक्वेस्ट मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ द अक्यूज्ड इन सर्टेन केसेस इंक्लूडिंग रेप केसेस। फॉरेंसिक इन्वेस्टिगेशन क्या है तो मैंडेटरी फॉर ऑफेंसेस पनिशेबल विथ एट लीस्ट 7 years ऑफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट। स्पेसिमेन क्या है तो इट एम्पावर्स अ मजिस्ट्रेट टू ऑर्डर एनी पर्सन टू प्रोवाइड स्पेसिमेन सिग्नेचर, हैंड राइटिंग, फिंगर इम्प्रेशन एंड वॉइस सैम्पल्स। टाइमलाइन फॉर प्रोसीजर क्या है तो फॉर इंस्टेंस सबमिशन ऑफ मेडिकल रिपोर्ट्स टू इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग ऑफिसर, गिविंग जजमेंट, इन्फॉर्मिंग द विक्टिम ऑफ प्रोग्रेस ऑफ द इन्वेस्टिगेशन एंड फ्रेमिंग ऑफ चार्जेस। अगला है भारतीय सुरक्षा अधिनियम 2023। इट रिप्लेसेस द इंडियन एविडेंस एक्ट 1872 IAE विच गवर्नड द एडमिसिबिलिटी ऑफ एविडेंस इन इंडियन कोर्ट in all civil and criminal procedures. बैकग्राउंड क्या है तो पहले बैकग्राउंड देख लेते हैं। द एविडेंस एक्ट वाज इनैक्टेड इन 1872 टू कंसोलिडेट द लॉज रिलेटिंग टू एविडेंस ऑन विच द कोर्ट कुड कंक्लूड एंड प्रोनाउंस द जजमेंट की प्रोविजन क्या है इसका तो एडमिसिबिलिटी ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और डिजिटल रिकॉर्ड एज एविडेंस will have the same legal effect as paper records. Allowed oral evidence. It includes statements made before courts by witness in relation to a fact under inquiry. It allows oral evidence to be given electronically. Joint trial क्या है तो a joint trial refers to the trial of more than one person for the same offence. The act adds that trial of multiple persons that are accused has absconded or has not responded to an arrest warrant will be treated as a joint trial. स्पेशल एंड लोकल लॉज के SLL क्या है तो देख लेते हैं। रिसेंट टेबलिंग ऑफ बिल और ऑन क्रिमिनल लॉज हैज केप्ट स्पेशल एंड लोकल लॉज SLL अवे फ्रॉम द ऑनगोइंग रिफॉर्म प्रोसेस। cognizable crimes are broadly categorized as those falling either under the Indian Penal Code IPC or under the special and local laws SLL. Cognizable offense is defined as the one which an officer in charge of a police station may investigate without the order of a magistrate and effect arrest without warrant. About special and local laws, SLL. A special law is a law applicable to a particular subject covering specific issues. Example क्या? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967 UPA. A local law is a law applicable only to a particular part of India. एग्जाम्पल में क्या है? तो महाराष्ट्र कंट्रोल ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्रिमिनल एक्ट MCOCA 1999. अगला टॉपिक है रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ बर्थ एंड डेथ अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 2023. तो न्यूज़ में क्या था? तो रिसेंटली द एक्ट टू अमेंड द रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ बर्थ एंड डेथ एक्ट 1967 वाज पास्ड. बैकग्राउंड क्या था इसका? तो की फीचर्स ऑफ द रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ बर्थ एंड डेथ एक्ट ऑफ 1967 आर कौन कौन सा है? तो इट प्रोवाइड फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ ए रजिस्ट्रार जनरल ऑफ इंडिया बाय द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. अगला है चीफ रजिस्ट्रार, डिस्ट्रिक्ट रजिस्ट्रार एंड रजिस्ट्रार टू बी अपॉइंटेड इन एवरी स्टेट by the state government for the implementation of the act in the state, district and local level respectively. अगला provides to obtain an exact extract from the registrar related to any birth or death. अगला है in respect of birth or death occurring in a house, it is the duty of the head of the house, and in hospital the medical officer in charge is responsible for reporting. अगला है a birth certificate can be obtained without the name of the child. The registration of the birth and death fall under the concurrent list. The act has not been amended since its inception. Key features of Birth and Death Amendment Act 2023. Key features क्या है? तो पहला है database of birth and death. It adds that the Registrar General of India will maintain a national database of registered birth and death. Chief Registrar and registrars will be obligated to share data of registered birth and death to the national database. The chief registrar shall maintain a similar database at the state level. अगला है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सर्टिफिकेट. प्रोवाइड डिजिटल रजिस्ट्रेशन एंड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिलीवरी ऑफ सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ बर्थ एंड डेथ. अगला है लिंकिंग विथ आधार टू कलेक्ट आधार नंबर ऑफ पेरेंट्स एंड इन्फॉर्मेट्स इन केस ऑफ बर्थ रजिस्ट्रेशन. नेक्स्ट इज कनेक्टिंग डाटाबेस. It states that the national database may be made available to other authorities preparing or maintaining other database like population register, electoral rolls, ration card, etc. Appeal process क्या है? तो any person aggrieved by any action or order of the registrar or district registrar may appeal to the district registrar or chief registrar respectively within 30 days. अगला टॉपिक है प्रेस एंड रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ पीरियोडिकल एक्ट 2023. न्यूज़ में क्यों था? द प्रेसिडेंट हैज़ ग्रांटेड असेंट टू द प्रेस एंड रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ पीरियोडिकल बिल 2023 रिपीलिंग द colonial era law of the Press and Registration of Books Act 1867. बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द प्रेस एंड रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ बुक एक्ट 1867 क्या है? तो पहला सेंसरशिप ऑफ प्रेस एक्ट ऑफ 1799 अंडर द लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली टू साइलेंस द प्रेस बिफोर ए पोटेंशियल फ्रेंच invasion of India. However, it was retreated in 1818 by Lord Hastings. Next is Licensing Regulation Ordinance 1823 under John Adams. The ordinance has a draconian provision that no one could start or continue to use a press without registration. Raja Ram Mohan Roy's Mirat ul Akhbar had to cease publication due to this act. Next is Press Act of 1835 under Metcalfe. The act was seen as a ray of liberation and thus earned Metcalfe the respectable title of Liberator of Indian Press. As a consequence, the Indian vernacular press saw rapid growth across India between 1835 and 1857. The Licensing Act of 1857. Due to the revolt of 1857, this act emerged which imposed licensing restriction in addition to the pre-existing regulation process. Next is Press and Registration of Books PRB Act 1867 under John Lawrence. The act made it mandatory for every article or print to have the name of the printer, publisher and the place of publication printed. Further amendment क्या है? The act was amended many times between 1870 and 1983 but it remained procedurally cumbersome and complex especially for small and medium publisher. Key provision of PRP Act 2023. की प्रोविजन क्या है? और प्रेस एंड रेगुलेशन पीरियोडिकल्स एक्ट 23 क्या है? तो पहला रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ periodical. Periodical do not include book or scientific and academic journal. Book are outside the preview of the act. Foreign periodicals क्या है तो A. Facsimile of a foreign periodical may be printed in India only with the prior approval of the central government. Facsimile means an exact reproduction of the original. Declaration for printing press. It allows the publisher of a periodical to obtain a registration certificate by filing an online application with the Press Registrar General (PRG) and specified local authority. Registration of a printing press. The PRP Act 2023 allows for information regarding a printing press to be submitted through an online portal. Penalties क्या होगा? The 23 Act seeks to decriminalize the colonial era statute by replacing jail term with fine. काउंसिलिंग रजिस्ट्रेशन क्या है तो PRP Act 2023 empower the press registrar general to suspend cancel the certificate of registration. Also, a person who has been convicted of a terrorist act or unlawful activity or has acted against the security of the state will not be allowed to publish a periodicals. अगला टेलीकम्युनिकेशन एक्ट 2023. ये न्यूज़ में क्यों था? द प्रेसिडेंट गेव हिज असेंट टू टेलीकॉम बिल 2023 टू रिप्लेस द 138-year-old इंडियन टेलीग्राफ एक्ट. मोर अबाउट द न्यूज़ क्या है? द एक्ट रिप्लेसेस द इंडियन टेलीग्राफ एक्ट ऑफ 1885, द इंडियन वायरलेस टेलीग्राफ एक्ट 1993 एंड टेलीग्राफ वायर अनलॉफुल पोसेशन एक्ट 1950. It also amended the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India (TRAI) Act 1997. की प्रोविजन ऑफ द एक्ट क्या है तो असेसमेंट ऑफ स्पेक्ट्रम क्या है तो स्पेक्ट्रम एलोकेशन बिल वी थ्रू ऑक्शन एंड फॉर ए स्पेसिफाइड यूजर ऑन एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव बेसिस. स्पेसिफाइड पर्पसेस इंक्लूड क्या क्या इंक्लूड करेगा तो नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एंड डिफेंस, डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, वेदर फोरकास्टिंग, ट्रांसपोर्ट, सैटेलाइट सर्विस. For the first time, administrative allocation will be done of a spectrum for the satellite broadband service in line with global norms. Appointment to TRAI क्या है तो TRAI Act has been amended to allow individual with पहला at least 30 year of professional experience to serve as a chairperson and at least 25 year of professional experience to serve as a member. Next is education process. Appointment of an educating officer to conduct inquiries against civil offences. Approval against the order of a committee in connection to breach of term and condition may be filed with Telecom Dispute Settlement and Appraisal Tribunal (TDSAT) within 30 days. Protection of user. Central government may provide for measures to protect user. Example: prior consent to receive a specified messages, creation of do not disturb registrar, and allowing user to report malware of a specific message. अगला right of way. In titles, building infrastructure can seek right of way, facilitating the use of property over public or private property. Power of interception and search. Messages can be intercepted, monitored, or blocked on certain grounds, including security of the state, public order, and prevention of incitement of offense. Next is authorization for telecom related activities. Prior authorization of central government needed to provide, operate, maintain, or expand new telecommunication services and to possess radio equipment. Next is regulation of OTTs. OTT platform will not be regulated under the Telecom Act 2023. अदर प्रोविजन क्या है तो डिजिटल भारत निधि. द बिल renamed the Universal Service Obligation Fund as Digital Bharat Nidhi and allow it user for research and development in telecom sector. Trusted sources regime, which came into being after the 2020 Indo-Chinese borders skirmishes to stop import of telecom equipment from hostile nation, is now part of the law. अगला है इंटरनेट शटडाउन. न्यूज़ में क्या था? एज पर रिपोर्ट रिलीज्ड बाय द इंटरनेट फ्रीडम फाउंडर IFF and Human Rights Watch HRW, most internet shutdown in last 3 years were to curb protest. Internet shutdown in India. कब था तो इंटरनेट शटडाउन include action that restrict access to the internet completely or slow down speed or restrict certain content. Currently, the suspension of telecom services including internet shutdown, is governed by temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency and public safety rule 2017, notified under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. 2017 rule provide for a temporary shutdown of telecom services in a region on ground of public emergency up to 15 days at once. The law empowers senior bureaucrats from the Home Ministry and center and state level to order shutdown. Key guidelines proposed by Supreme Court in Radha Basin versus Union of India case 2010. An order suspending internet service indefinitely is impermissible under the temporary suspension of telecom service public emergency on public service rule 2017. Suspension can be utilized for a temporary duration only. Any order suspending the internet issue under the suspension rule must adhere to the principle of proportionality and must not extend beyond necessary duration. Any order suspending the internet under the suspension rule is subject to judicial review. The court has also declared the freedom of speech and expression, as well as freedom of trade and commerce through internet, are constitutionally protected rights under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A and Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause G. अदर इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ में क्या क्या है तो केबल टेलीविज़न नेटवर्क रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1995. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has notified amendments in the Cable Television Network Rule 1994. It provides the operational mechanism for implementation of the decentralized provision of Cable Television Network Regulation Act 1995. Aim क्या है तो to make the Cable Television Network Regulation Act of 1995 more business friendly and to boost investor confidence and ease of doing business. Sections of the Act were re-examined and were decentralized through the Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provision Act 2023. The imprisonment provision has been now replaced with monetary penalties and other non-monetary measures like advisory warning etc. Advocates Amendment Act 2023. The act passed by Parliament seeks to make the act of tort punishable and repeal certain provisions of Legal Practitioners Act 1879 which has become obsolete. Provision क्या है तो it provides that every high court and district judge can frame and publish list of torts. Such person named in the list of torts will be excluded from entering the court premises. Tort refers to a person who either proposes to procure or procures the employment of a legal practitioner, return of any payment. Next is Commission of Inquiry Act 1952. Government has notified a Commission of Inquiry under Commission of Inquiry Act 1952 to inquire into incident of violence in Manipur. It authorizes central and state government to appoint inquiry commission to make inquiries in definite matter of public importance. Central government can appoint a commission to make inquiry in any matter relatable to any of the entries enumerated in list 1 and 3 of Schedule 7. State government can appoint commission for entries enumerated in list 2 or 3 of Schedule 7. Foreign Contribution Regulation Act FCRA. Ministry of Home Affairs has suspended foreign funding license of Care India over alleged violation of FCRA. FCRA was enacted during emergency in 1976 to regulate foreign donation to individual and associations so that they functioned in a manner consistent with values of a sovereign democratic republic. It was amended in 2010 to consolidate the law on utilization of foreign fund and to prohibit their use for any activities detrimental to national interest. Law was amended again in 2020, giving the government tighter control and scrutiny over receipt and utilization of foreign funds by NGOs. Next is emergency properties. Emergency property refers to property of asset held or managed on behalf of an emergency subject or an emergency company, emergency or emergency subject or emergency firm. Enemy or enemy subject or enemy firm means a person. पूरा पढ़ते फिर से enemy properties Enemy property refers to a property or asset held or managed on behalf of an enemy subject or enemy company. Enemy or enemy subject or enemy firm means a person or a country who or which was an enemy under the Defense of India Act DOI 1962 and DOI Rule 1962 or the DOI Act 1971 and DOI Rule 1971. To administer these properties, the Enemy Property Act was enacted in 1968. The law empowered the custodian of enemy property in India CEPI under Union Minister of Home Affairs to manage and preserve the enemy properties. In 2017, the Enemy Properties Amendment and Validation Act was enacted which allows transfer of enemy property from the enemy to the other person. अगला है सेवंथ पार्ट है इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल या स्टेटरी एग्जीक्यूटिव बॉडी इन न्यूज़। तो कौन कौन सा न्यूज़ में रहा? पहला है लोकपाल। न्यूज़ में एक था तो ए हाई लेवल सर्च कमिटी हैज एक्सटेंडेड द डेट फॉर रिसीविंग एप्लीकेशन फॉर द पोस्ट ऑफ चेयरपर्सन एंड मेंबर ऑफ एंटी करप्शन ऑम्ब्यूड्समैन लोकपाल। अबाउट लोकपाल क्या है? तो इन 1966 द टर्म लोकपाल लोकायुक्त coined by L.M. Singhvi was first used in a report of the Administrative Reform Commission. Lokpal is a national anti-corruption ombudsman to look into complaints against public servants which are defined under the Lokpal and Lokayukt Act 2013. According to the Act, there shall be a director of inquiry not below the rank of Joint Secretary who shall be appointed by the government. To conduct primarily inquiry refers to the Central Vigilance Commission CVC by the Lokpal. Though Lokpal came into being in 2019, Director of Inquiry has not been yet appointed. Lokayukt क्या? तो Lokayukt are state equivalent of Central Lokpal. Some states already have established Lokayukt. For example, Maharashtra in 1971 and Kerala in 1999. They shall have jurisdiction over CM, Minister, MLA, all state government employees and certain private entities, including religious institutions. लोकपाल एंड लोकायुक्त एक्ट 2013 क्या क्या है? तो कंपोजिशन इसका क्या है? तो लोकपाल कंसिस्ट ऑफ ए चेयरपर्सन एंड अ मैक्सिमम ऑफ 8 मेंबर, of which 50% shall be judicial member and 50% shall be from SC, ST, OBC, minorities and women. Tenure of office क्या है? तो chairperson and member of Lokpal are appointed for term of 5 years or until attaining age of 70 years, whichever is earlier. Selection Commission SC. Chairperson and Lokpal members shall be appointed by President on recommendation of a SC. Selection Committee consists Prime Minister, Chairperson, Legislative Speaker, Lok Sabha का Speaker, Leader of Opposition and CJI or his nominee, an eminent jurist nominated by President based on recommendation of other member of panel. As per Lokpal Act of 2013, Department of Personnel and Training needs to create a list of candidates who are interested to become the chairperson of member of Lokpal. Confiscation of property acquired by corrupt means even while prosecution is pending. Timeline for inquiry या investigation 60 days for completion of inquiry and 6 months of completion of investigation by CBI. This period of 6 months can be extended by Lokpal on a written request from CBI. Power with respect to CBI. The power of superintendents and director over any investigation agency including CBI for cases referred to them by Lokpal. Transfer of officer of CBI investigating case referred by Lokpal would need approval of Lokpal. Removal कब होगा? तो Lokpal member and chairperson shall be removed by President after the inquiry by Supreme Court. For that, a petition has to be signed by at least 100 member of Parliament MPs. Lokpal jurisdiction क्या है? तो it extend to Prime Minister, Minister, MP, Group A, B, C, D, E, officer and official of central government. Any security or trust body that receives foreign contribution above 10 lakh rupees. अगला डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन। तो ये न्यूज़ में क्या था? सुप्रीम कोर्ट asked the center to set up a fresh delimitation commission to ensure a proportional representation of the communities specified as scheduled caste SCs and scheduled tribe STs as mandated under the constitution. Delimitation commission क्या है? तो आर्टिकल 82 Parliament enact a delimitation commission. It is responsible for the Adjustment of the constitutionaries, number and boundaries of Lok Sabha and state assemblies after every census. It decides its decisions. Its decisions are considered final and are unchallengeable in any court. The copies of its order are laid before the House of the People and the State Legislative Assembly concerned, but no modification are permissible therein by them. Composition क्या हुआ? तो a Supreme Court judge, current or retired, act as a chairman. The Chief Election Commission of India or an election commission nominated by him or her respective state election commissioner. Delimitation in India कब होता है? Delimitation commission has been set up in 4 times since independence, that is in 1995, in 1952, in 1963, 1973 and 2002. In 1976, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment froze the delimitation exercise until the first census after 2000 was published. In 2002, the 84th Constitutional Amendment further extended the freeze for 25 years till 2026. अगला डायरेक्टोरेट ऑफ इन्फोर्समेंट न्यूज़ में क्यों है? तो रिसेंटली सुप्रीम कोर्ट डिक्लेयर्ड द थर्ड एक्सटेंशन गिवन टू द डायरेक्टोरेट ऑफ इन्फोर्समेंट ईडी चीफ इनवैलिड. पावर ऑफ डायरेक्टोरेट ऑफ इन्फोर्समेंट, power to seize asset, power to summon, same power as a civil court regarding discovery, inspection, production of evidence, summon, examining, issuing commission, etc. Power to arrest, can investigate and make arrest for violation of PMLA 2002 and FEMA 1999 without waiting for registration for a formal FIR by police. Record admissibility क्या है? तो in 2022 the Supreme Court ruled that statements record by ED officer can be admitted as evidence in court. Recovery of fines, penalties and arrears of penalties under the FEMA Act. Enforcement Directorate ED establishment कब हुआ था? in 1952 under Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Composition क्या है? तो headed by ED Director who is appointed as per provision of Section 25 of CVC Act 2003. Tenure क्या है? तो 2-year tenure but can be given 3 annual extension. Function क्या है? तो responsible for enforcement of पहला Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, FEMA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act PMLA 2002, Fugitive Economic Offender Act FEOA 2018 and Conversion of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Act of 1974. कॉफे पोसा. अगला सेंट्रल ब्यूरो ऑफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन CBI. तो न्यूज़ में क्यों आया? तो तमिलनाडु विड्रॉ जनरल कंसेंट अकॉर्डेड टू CBI टू प्रोव केसेस इन स्टेट. CBI इन्वेस्टिगेशन क्या होता है? तो एंटी करप्शन पहला, they are usually registered against public officer and employee of union government. The superintendence of CBI related to the investigation of offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 lie with CBC. Special crimes investigation of serious and organized crime under IPC on request of a state government or on order of Supreme Court and High Court. Economic offence क्या है? तो crimes of financial malfeasance, bank fraud, money laundering, black money, corruption, etc. However, CBI usually transfer cases of money laundering to ED. Suo motu, CBI can suo motu take up investigation offences only in the UTs. The central holds the power to authorize the CBI to investigate a crime in a state only after the consent of concerned state. However, Supreme Court and High Court can order CBI to investigate a crime anywhere in country without consent of the state. About general assent, it is requested under Section 6 of Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. The consent of the state government to CBI can either general or case specific. General consent is consent by default. Recently, multiple states have withdrawn general consent like West Bengal, Mizoram, Punjab, etc. Exception to general consent. The Supreme Court and High Court can order CBI to investigate a crime anywhere in the country without consent of the state. Consent does not apply in cases where someone has been caught red-handed taking a bribe. In case of a specific consent, CBI would have to apply to the state government in every case. If a specific consent is not granted, the CBI officials will not have the power of police personnel when they enter the state. Without withdrawal is not applicable in case in which the investigation is already in progress. नेक्स्ट सेंट्रल ब्यूरो ऑफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन सीबीआई. तो इसका स्टैब्लिशमेंट हुआ था इन 1963 अंडर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पर्सनल पेंशन एंड पब्लिक ग्रीवांसेज. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ दिल्ली स्पेशल पुलिस इस्टेब्लिशमेंट DSPE एक्ट 1946 रिकमेंडेड बाई संथानम कमेटी ऑन प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन 1962 एंड 64. कंपोजिशन क्या हुआ था? हेडेड बाई डायरेक्टर ऑफ सीबीआई अपॉइंटेड बाई 3 member कमिटी, प्राइम मिनिस्टर, लीडर ऑफ अपोजिशन पार्टी इन लोकसभा एंड चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया. टेन्योर क्या था? 2 year टेन्योर बट कैन बी गिवन 3 annual एक्सटेंशंस. फंक्शन क्या होगा? तो फोकस ऑन कॉम्बैटिंग करप्शन इन पब्लिक लाइफ, कर्व इकोनॉमिक एंड वायलेशन क्राइम थ्रू मेटिकुलस इन्वेस्टिगेशन एंड प्रोसिक्यूशन, fight cyber and higher technology crime, provide assistance to Central Vigilance Commission CVC and Lokpal. It is the nodal police agency in India which coordinates investigation on behalf of Interpol member countries. Next is National Cadet Corps NCC. न्यूज़ में क्यों था? तो नेशनल कैडेट कॉर्प्स NCC, द लार्जेस्ट यूनिफॉर्म्ड youth organization in the world, celebrate its 75th anniversary in 2023. About NCC क्या? तो it came into existence under the National Cadet Corps Act 1948. Pandit H.N. Kunzru committee recommended a cadet organization to be established in a school and colleges at a national level. Aim क्या है? To create organized, trained and motivated youth to provide leadership in all walks of life and always available for the service of the nation. It is tri-service organization comprising the army, the navy and the air wing. हेडक्वार्टर कहाँ है? तो दिल्ली में है. NCC Directorate. NCC at the state level is divided into 7 directorates in which each state or group of state of or UTs form a directorate. Nature of NCC program. पहला वॉलंटरी और दूसरा द स्टूडेंट हैव नो लायबिलिटी फॉर एक्टिव मिलिट्री सर्विस. NCC ऑफिसर 3 types of certificate offers 3 types of certificate based on duration. NCC versus National Service Scheme NSS. While both are voluntary in nature, there are certain differences. Difference between NCC and NSS. पैरामीटर क्या है? तो एक होगा NCC का और दूसरा होगा NSS का. मिनिस्ट्री क्या है? तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस NCC का और दूसरा का है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ यूथ अफेयर एंड स्पोर्ट्स. ईयर ऑफ एस्टैब्लिशमेंट का है? तो NCC हुआ 1948 में और NSS हुआ 1969 में. एम किया था? टू फॉस्टर डिसिप्लिन, सेल्फनेस, यूथ लीडरशिप फॉर नेशनल सर्विस एंड मिलिट्री कैरियर. वहीं NSS में डेवलपमेंट ऑफ स्टूडेंट पर्सनालिटी थ्रू कम्युनिटी सर्विसेज. इस्टेब्लिशमेंट थ्रू क्या हुआ था? तो NCC हुआ था नेशनल कैडेट कॉर्प्स एक्ट 31 of 1948 और इसका हुआ था NSS का सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम. यूनिफॉर्म क्या होगा? तो कंपलसरी यूनिफॉर्म फॉर NCC कैडेट्स, नो यूनिफॉर्म प्रिस्क्राइब फॉर NSS वॉलंटियर. हु कैन ज्वाइन? द जूनियर डिवीजन विंग, student from school of 13 year or more of age. Senior division wing, student from college and 11 and 12 classes. वहीं NSS के लिए 11th and 12th class student for technical institution, graduate and post graduate at college and university level of India. अगला अदर इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ में क्या क्या है देख लेते हैं. पहला है कंपटीशन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया CCI. Ravneet Kaur has become the first woman chairperson of CCI. Competition Commission of India क्या है? तो पहला स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडी है. जेनेसिस क्या है? तो इट वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट इन 2003 अंडर कंपटीशन एक्ट 2002. मिनिस्ट्री क्या है? तो एफिलिएटेड ऑफिस विथ मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव अफेयर्स. कंपोजिशन क्या होगा? तो CCI कंसिस्ट ऑफ अ चेयरपर्सन एंड 6 member अपॉइंटेड बाय द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. फंक्शन क्या होगा? तो एलिमिनेट practices having adverse effect on competition, promote and sustain competition. protect interest of consumer and ensure freedom of trade in market of India. Next is Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution, GANHRI. It was established in 1993 as International Coordinating Committee of National Institution for Promotion and Protection of Human Rights, ICC. General Assembly in GANHRI's supreme deliberative body. Bureau is the GANHRI Executive Committee. It is comprised of 16 members, 4 from each of GNHRI region network of Africa, America, Asia Pacific and Europe. हेडक्वार्टर्स कहाँ है? तो जिनीवा स्विट्जरलैंड में है. नेक्स्ट इज अपॉइंटमेंट कमिटी ऑफ द कैबिनेट ACC. ACC has approved appointment for the post of Directorate of the Special Protection Group SPGs. The force has handled the security of the MP. About ACC क्या है? तो it decide all higher level appointment in Central Secretariat, Public Enterprises, Bank and Finance Institution. It is chaired by the PM. Ministry of Home Affairs is also a member. Next is Press Information Bureau PIB. Press Information Bureau marked its centennial anniversary. Press Information Bureau PIB नॉन स्टेचुरी बॉडी है. अबाउट इसमें क्या होगा? तो नोडल एजेंसी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया टू डिसमिनेट इंफॉर्मेशन टू द प्रिंट एंड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया ऑन गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज प्रोग्राम. जेनेसिस क्या होगा? तो सच स्टेप्स set up as a temporary cell under then British government in 1919. In 1923, the bureau was made permanent as the Bureau of Public Information. It acquires its present name in 1946 and became a department of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting after 1947. Composition क्या हो जाएगा? तो Principal Directorate General Media and Communication who is asserted by the Director General and 8 additional Director General. Function इसका क्या हो जाएगा? तो as an interface between the government and the media and also serve to provide feedback to the government and on people's reaction as referred in the media. Next, National Center for Good Governance NCGG. NCGG has completed the training of 24th batch of Maldivian civil servant. About NCGG. Genesis क्या हो जाएगा? तो set up in 2014 under Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension. Governing body क्या होगा? तो headed by Cabinet Secretary. Objective क्या होगा? तो improve governance, policy reform, capacity building and training of civil servant and technocrats of India and other developing countries. Function as a national repository of information on best practices, initiative and methodologies that promote good governance. National Investigation Agency NIA. NIA conducted searches at various locations to locate those involved in attack on High Commission of India in London. The NIA was found under NIA Act 2008 in the aftermath of 26/11 attack. It is a federal counter-terror agency that can take up suo motu cognizance of terrorist activity in any part of India. NIA Amendment Act 2019 empowered NIA to investigate scheduled offence committees outside India subject to international treaties and democratic law of other countries. Act 2019 also empowered the center to designate session court and special court for NIA trial. Cabinet Secretary. General Secretary was granted extension for another year. About CS appointed by the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet ACC on sanitary cum merit basis. CS is responsible for administration of the GOI allocation of Business Rule 1961 and GOI transition of Business Rule 1961. CS is also the head of Civil Service Board CSB. अगला है 8 इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ गवर्नेंस और ये लास्ट हमारा हेडिंग होगा इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ गवर्नेंस. इसमें कुछ टॉपिक्स है जो न्यूज़ में आया था उसे हम लोग देखेंगे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में. इसमें पहला होगा मिशन कर्मयोगी. तो इससे हम लोग यहीं पे समाप्त करते हैं वीडियो लेक्चर को। उम्मीद है आपको यह वीडियो पसंद आया होगा और हमारी पहल आपको अच्छी लग रही होगी। तो आप लोग कमेंट बॉक्स में ज़रूर बताएंगे आपको हमारी यह पहल कैसी लगी। और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें। वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार के UPSC एग्ज़ाम देने वाले हैं, उन लोगों तक इसे ज़रूर पहुँचा ताकि वो भी करंट अफेयर की तैयारी अच्छे से कर सकें। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में, तब तक के लिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा रिवाइज़ करें, देखते रहें। जय हिंद, जय भारत।